thank everybody so very much for coming today and for putting this on. John, who was, as John said, such a good person. And I have so many stories I could tell you, but that phone going off a minute ago reminds me of what happened at my mum's funeral 15 years ago. John was a wonderful support to me. He came to the funeral and supported me, helped me, came to see Mum the night before her funeral. She had been with the coroner for quite some time. And as John was, he was so loving, he bought a teddy bear and he opened up the shroud and he placed the teddy bear in my mum's arms and he kissed my mum on the lips. And she had been with the coroner for 3 weeks. But that was John. So at the funeral, I said to John when we were in the morning coach on the way, I said, "Turn your mobile phone off, please, John." He said, "Yes, Mum, I will." So we get into the chapel. My mum wasn't religious, but she loved John very much. They were very close. We sit down, we're in the front row, of course, and the celebrant began, and John's phone started to ring. And I said, "John, turn your phone off. Turn your phone off. I asked you to." And that was one of the things. That was John. Because no matter what you'd say, he always did the opposite. But losing him has been so very hard. For my husband also, who can't be here today through bad health, he raised John from 10 months old. So he was dad to John and always called him Dad. My husband Greg supported him right through all his illnesses. If he needed help in any way, he was always there for John. And when John was in and out of hospital with relapses, I always flew up to Sydney, and when he was in hospital in Melbourne, I'll have to tell you that it's a bit of a long story, but I'll try and make it short. But I always said to the doctors, "I'm here for the long haul. I'll never walk away from my son." And that's one thing I can honestly say I never did. But he was in hospital in Melbourne at one stage, and that was about probably 8 years ago, and he had relapsed because he wouldn't take his medication. He was never any harm to anybody, just himself. Anyway, I was out there at the hospital and we went out into the open area where we could have a cigarette, and he said, "Mum," he said, "you look at that wall there. I could go over that." I said, "Don't be ridiculous, John. You've got a broken arm, it's in a cast. You've got a crook knee." He had been belted up, okay? And he said, "Yes, I could get over that. There's an old walking frame there. I could get up on that and I could go over that wall." Well, I said, no, you can't do that, John. Anyway, I spent my time with him and we had a lovely time. And I went home. On the way home on the train from Melbourne to Seymour, which is quite a long way, I did say to the doctors before I left and the nurses, "John said he's going to go over the wall." And they said, "Oh no, that's impossible. He's 46 or something now. His arm's in a cast, his knee is no good. He couldn't possibly go over the wall." So I'm halfway on the way home to Seymour, and my phone rang, and it was the doctor. Well, you have proved us wrong. John has gone over the wall, and we don't know where he is. So the next morning, I got a phone call from St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney saying, "Oh, we have your son here." And I said, "How did he get there?" Well, he got onto a bus at the shopping centre opposite the hospital in Melbourne. He bought a long black curly wig, which I've got at home still. He put that on. He bought a long sleeve shirt that would cover the cast on his arm. And he then went to the bank and drew out all the money he had there. He went out on the bus to Melbourne Airport, Tullamarine, bought a ticket on Virgin Airlines and flew to Sydney. That was John. And I said, "Why did you do all that?" "Oh, I just had to do it, Mum." So I was on the next plane up to Sydney, and he was in hospital by that time at St Vincent's. So that's just one of the stories. He was so funny. But anyway, just to finish this off, John never, ever, ever didn't ring me. He rang me every single morning at 9:30 a.m. The minute I sat down to eat my piece of toast and have a coffee, the phone would ring. "Hi Mum, how are you? How's the pain today?" Because I've been having a few problems. And I said, "Oh, I've really had it." He said, "Mum," he said, "you need to take your medication properly." I said, "Well, you're a fine one to tell me that." That was him. And we'd have another little chat, and he never, ever, ever hung up without saying, "I love you, Mum." So that was my story with John. And I'll never get over losing him. But thank you, everyone, for what you're doing today. I really am so grateful. And Jamie, John's son, I'm very blessed to have him. John will live on through Jamie. On this one very important thing I haven't said, John donated his organs. And I had a letter 3 days ago from Donation for Life, and enclosed was a letter from one of the recipients of John's right kidney. A letter to us, the donor's family, saying how very grateful they are to our son for donating to him. This gentleman had been on dialysis only for 2 years, but both his kidneys were absolutely no good through medication, 30 years of medication. And he was only a very short time off dying. He received John's kidney the night John passed away on the 18th, early hours of the morning, the 18th of December last year, and he was home by Christmas. John's kidney started to work the minute it was transplanted into his body. So we just are so grateful to John. His liver is working beautifully in another man, and his other kidney beautifully in another man. That's why I'm wearing this heart. Donation for Life sent hearts for us to wear. So thank you, my darling son. I honour you, and we love you. Thank you very much, everybody.